Okay, hello, good evening. My name is Alan Friesen, also known as the Acapellist, also known by my Blackfoot name Samensky. And with me is a guest that I just love this woman. She's incredible. Lynn Lionhood is her name. I met her through Jeanette Anderson with the Maturepreneur Network. I also met Cheryl Stelty through her. I just been meeting all kinds of people. My goodness. And Lynn is a super connector, amazing connector. She's awesome, awe-inspiring and awesome. Lynn, talk to us. Tell us about Lynn.
First of all, I want to thank Jeanette because you never know when these little nuggets come into your life and lead you to big nuggets.
Exactly.
And that's what happened, Alan. I mean, I did her show once before when it was just she and I. And then she invited me the second time to come out and speak. And all of a sudden, these people started popping up. And one of them was you, Alan. And, I thought, hey, if I'm going to spend the next hour with these people, I want to get to know them. And I talked to you guys a little bit, and there seemed to be a great connection. My brain started going crazy thinking of what I could do for you guys. And the rest is history. You were smart enough to take my information and follow back up. And I hope this is a friendship for life. I really, truly do.
Lynn, I am certain of that. You're amazing. And if I could do half the things as good as you do them, I'd be incredibly effective. So yeah. Oh, you know what else? You had introduced me to Mishka too.
Isn't she wonderful?
Wonderful. What a lovely woman. We did a phone call instead of a video chat. My preference would have been a video chat, but I did see her on the video from last Thursday. I kind of met her that way. So
I do love her and see. So there's this whole little Canadian connection up there that's wonderful. And I have more like that.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. I also through meeting, Cheryl Stelty wrote the book that she wrote through a company. I'm just going to try to remember what the name of it is. Hang on one second. Let me get to this. Oh my goodness. Here. I know how I'll find it. Sorry. Go ahead and carry on. I'll find this.
Keep talking to me. Tell me about Cheryl.
Okay. Yeah. So Cheryl wrote this book, and she wrote it through this company, Divine Press, Difference Press is what it's called. So through Difference Press, then I had a met with this gentleman. His name is Corey Hott, Hott, and he is freaking amazing person. And through him, I met Denise Anderson. And Denise she's a firecracker. She's from Regina. So I met her and Corey and I have been talking about a possible book idea, my idea. And then I was getting their advice because they're way smarter about this stuff than I am. And if I contract with them, they'll guide me through the process and make sure that it's successful. I've written a book before and it was self-published. And, I think I printed 200 copies and I got 50 left or something like that. Right. So it wasn't, I didn't market it right. I didn't, a lot of things I think I can do better now. And I think my message is more important as well. So, yeah.
You think about it, though, Alan, it's like this. Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Do it.
It's kind of like sex. The first time is not great, but it gets better because you stick with it. So Your first book didn't have to be perfect, but boy, the next ones are all going to be better.
I agree. Yes. So I'm really, really inspired. But tell us about your husband, and then about your daughter, and then about your fucking divine mission that you're on. Yes.
Sorry. Let me explain that to you. Let me explain to you. I was a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids, had decided to forego my career as a court reporter, and I was just going to be a stay-at-home mom. I was going to be the best one of those that I could possibly be. And my husband was an undercover narcotics officer for a major city in the United States. And it's a very dangerous job. And one night he went to work and it was the worst night of my life. At 2:00 in the morning, police officers knocked on my door and said, "You need to come with us right now. There's been a little problem tonight." And I asked what was going on. They didn't want to tell me. I said, I have 4 small children. My kids were 2nd grade to 9th grade. They said, wake a neighbor up and have them stay with them. So I did. And on the way out the door, I heard them say to my neighbor, leave the televisions and the radios off. And I thought, ooh, that doesn't sound like that's good.
No,
Got in
ma'am.
the squad car. Lights and sirens are on, going through every traffic light. Again, quite nervous, won't tell me anything. And I keep thinking, these are not good signs. These are all bad signs. And so we got to the hospital. It was the year that hospitals became trauma centers. And everywhere I looked, I could see police cars. And I thought, again, these are not good signs.
No.
And I kept saying, is he alive? And they wouldn't tell me. So they ran me in the hospital and took me into this little room that I call the bad news room, so that you don't be crazy in front of everybody. And when the door opened, there was a priest. And I said, is he alive? They said, just barely. He was hit by a semi tonight and dragged down the street. We cut him out with the jaws of life. There is a 0% chance that he will survive. And I believe that God is good to us. He puts us in the state of shock to protect us, because it's overwhelming to hear these things. And so they took him into the CAT scan room to figure out where the bleeding was coming from. Came running back to me a half an hour later to say, we had a problem. The main artery to his heart blew apart. We tried internal heart massage. We couldn't get anything back. We had to crack his chest open in the CAT scan room and try external heart massage. We were able to get a blood pressure going, and we're going to do some surgery right there in that room. So they said one of the doctors is standing on a milk crate. So we do not have a sterile environment. We don't have sterile instruments or gloves. We're just trying to save his life at this point.
Wow.
And so I knew this was not good. They said they were going to try an experimental procedure they had tried twice before. One patient had died during surgery, and one patient had survived for 1 day. So I knew these were critical hours. So I chose to say a prayer. And I remember praying to God saying, look, I have no control over whether he will live or die. That is in your hands. You've already written that story. But I pray for the strength to be able to cope with whatever decision you make. And I also ask that if you spare him, because we don't think we'll make deals with God at that time, but we do. And I said, if you spare him, I will do something every day of my life for someone that I'm not connected to financially and that I'm not related to. And I really wanted God to know that I meant every word of what I said. I wasn't just saying it. So,
and every day that I've known you, that's exactly what you do. You go out of your way to make sure that happens. That's beautiful.
And it's just so true. So yeah. I walked out into the waiting room and I looked around, and there were lots of people that were starting to show up that knew him, other police officers, friends, family. And I thought, there's lots of people here praying for him. So I thought, let me find somebody who doesn't have someone here with them, and I'll be their support person. So I remember, I will never forget the first person I saw, which was a young girl. And she must have been in her mid-20s. And I said to her, excuse me, I said, but who are you here for? And she said, well, I'm here for my boyfriend. And I said, okay. Are you here alone? She said, well, kind of. I said, what does that mean? She said, you see that woman across the room? I said, yeah. She said, well, that's his ex-wife. And she said, they're not going to tell me his condition when they come out. They're going to tell her, and I have to watch her body language so that I can tell if he's okay. I said, okay. So I said, basically, in essence, you're here alone. She said, yeah. I said, all right. I said, what is his first name? And I don't even remember that, but she told me. And I said, I'm going to say a quiet prayer for him. I didn't want her to think I was a crazy person. I didn't want to ask her to pray with her. I said, I'll say it myself. So I said a quiet prayer for him. And I said, what kind of surgery is he having? She said, an appendectomy. I thought, oh, I wish I was here for an appendectomy. So she said to me, and who are you there for? I said, for my husband. And she said, and what is he having done? And I told her what happened. And she said, and you're going to pray for me? I said, do you see all these people? They're all praying for him, but you have no one. So I'm going to be your support person. So she said, okay. I still think she must have thought I was crazy, but that's okay. So I kindly finished the conversation and left and began to move around the room looking for more people like her. And I did find some. But about an hour later, she came up to me and said, ma'am, I don't even remember your first name. And I told her. And she said, something very strange happened, and I think it was because of you. I said, well, what is that? She said, they came out and told his ex-wife what his condition was. She said, you don't understand. We have a very volatile relationship. It's actually physically violent between the two of us. And she said, she came over and nicely told me what his condition was. She said, that would never happen. So, Alan, while I was happy for her, I was so happy for myself because that told me what I needed to know. That told me that God was listening to me. And to me, that was powerful. So I knew that I had to continue, and which I did. In fact, I met a man. This was the only time I met somebody that wasn't by themselves. I met a man sitting with his father and his sister, grown man. And the father was elderly. And I asked them, I said, so who are you guys here for? And he said, well, I'm here for my mother. I said, what is she having done? He said, this was very odd. He said, she's having, I don't know, some kind of surgery, and it doesn't look like she's going to make it. And she knows where there's a lot of money hidden, and we have to stay here and hope she makes it through so we can find out. I said, okay. So I said my little prayer for them and their family, and she did make it. I don't know if they found the money, and I never asked. But about a week later, and I prayed with that family for days, all during her recovery. And then about a week later, I'm at the ball field. My two little boys were second grade and third grade, and they were playing t-ball, or maybe they were up a little bit higher than t-ball. But they had made the all-star team. And my husband had been coaching their teams, and obviously that didn't happen this year. But I would go there from time to time from the hospital and just check in because some of the coaches would come and pick my boys up and take them and whatever. So I was there one day, and I will never forget that they said to me, one of my boys had hit the ball, and because they're so young, everything is a home run, but they don't know that. And so he ran around the bases, and everybody knew what had happened to my husband. And he took his baseball cap off and he pointed it at home plate, and then he put it back on his head. And the umpire said to him, what did you do? He said, my dad's in the hospital, and his picture's inside my hat. I wanted him to see I got a home run. Now everybody's crying. And so one of the coaches came up to me and he said, your boys were selected for the all-star team. And he said, I want to introduce you to their all-star coach. And I said, okay. So he said, you see that man across the field coming this way? That's their all-star coach. And I looked at the man and I kept watching him. And as he got closer, I just took off running. And I gave the guy a hug, and he said, do you know him? I said, I know him very well now. He said, how do you know him? I said, I've been sitting with him and his sister and his father praying in the hospital for his mother. So that's who he turned out to be. Ended up being a good friend of our family, and that carried on for many years after that until we moved.
Wow, that's
Isn't
amazing.
it odd how those things happen?
It
But
is.
my husband lost he lost a lung. The main artery to his heart did blow apart. They took veins from his legs and built him an artery. Kidneys and liver shut down. He stayed in a coma for 6 weeks. He was on life support for 7 months. He was really a mess. 13 times he went through cardiac arrest when they were trying to take him off of life support. It was a long and arduous process. It was not fun. But eventually, I got to bring him home. And it felt like having a child graduate high school or college. I was so proud he was coming home. I did have to leave my daughter there. She had gotten very, very ill during this time. So it was bittersweet to bring one home and not the other. But time went on. And eventually I had to get a job, and I had remembered my promise, and I began to do exactly what I promised I would do. Some days I did extras because I didn't want to make sure if I ever forgot a day, I would take care of it. And then 31 years later, on the exact same day as my husband's accident, May 18th, My second daughter at this point was 43. She was stricken with a brain tumor at the base of her brain and down into her spine. She had been a chemical engineer for a very large chemical company. She had given that up to homeschool her children. She had 4 at the time. They were 15, 14, 13, and 12. And the neurologist told us there's only 3 outcomes you can expect. One is that she will not survive, even though she's young and very healthy. It's because of where the tumor's at. He said if she survived, there's about a 99% chance it's cancer. I will get as much as I can, but that will buy her a few extra months of chemotherapy and radiation and she'll pass. Or she could be a quadriplegic. And I thought, there's like nothing good there to pray for. But I dropped to my knees and I said the same prayer, and I added to that, I kept my word for 31 years, God. I will keep my word again. If you do save her, I will do something every day of my life for 2 people. And so he did spare her. She was a quadriplegic. It is a good story, not a bad story, because I had asked her, I said, Chrissy, how do you feel about the news that you now know? She couldn't move anything but her head. She said, Mom, I remember 2 things. I remember what you told Dad after his accident. I didn't remember it, but she did. And I said, what was that? She said, you told Dad that his attitude would determine how well he would get through this. So she said, I will never feel sorry for myself and I will never cry about this. I said, okay. And she said, I saw what you did to help Dad. And look where he's at now. And the doctor said he would never walk. He would never feed himself. So she said, anything you ask me to do, I will double that. And I'll get better. And I thought, oh, I'm not sure this is going to be the outcome this time. But I put it in God's hands. And 9 months after her surgery, she was no longer in a wheelchair. She no longer had braces on her arms and legs. It has not been easy. But the bottom line is she's 100% better than we could have ever asked for her to be.
Wow.
And so that's where I now have to do something for almost 800 people a year. And I don't, COVID came. I'm not even getting out anymore. So
you say you have to, but I think for you, it's a joy to do it. Like
it is. But honestly, it has become my mission in life. I cannot imagine my life without doing this. I feel like I was meant to do this. People have said that to me. They said, Lynn, do you realize that if your husband's accident had not happened, think of all the lives you have touched that would have never been touched. Definitely. And I thought, and honestly, my whole family will tell you that we would not change the accident. We would not change it. There have been so many good things. I mean, Alan, if you would have met me before the accident, I was quiet. I was shy. You could have walked into a room with 2 people. You wouldn't know I was one of them. And so I think God taught me the strength that I always had that I didn't know I had. Because all of a sudden, the man that made all the decisions was completely gone. And I had to do this. So he doesn't make mistakes. He knows exactly what he's doing. But he left me with a mission, and I had to figure out a way to make that happen. And I did. I went to some networking groups that were, I didn't think, very good. And instead of complaining about it, I just went home and I made a list. Okay, so here's all the good stuff and here's all the bad stuff. So keep the good stuff and fix the bad stuff. Yeah. And I set off to do that. And before you knew it, I had 100 people showing up every 2 weeks. So I had plenty of people that I could help. And it just became second nature to me. I loved it. So I had a sick husband, 4 little kids to raise. I still ran my own business, but loved doing this. And so I just got better and better and better at it. I developed what I call a human Rolodex in my head so that when I talk to people, things start spinning in my head and I know who they need to be introduced to. And I do.
I've experienced that. I'm talking to you and while I'm talking to you, you're saying, oh, Mishka, you got to meet her. And like, boom. And you pair people up very nicely. Like everybody that you have referred me to meet I had a real connection with. Like, it was great. So, by the way,
I thought you guys, the day I did this, must have thought I was crazy because I don't know you people. I'm supposed to be there to be a speaker, but my brain is going crazy. And I'm going, wait a minute now. I do have some connections for you. And then I think, who is the woman that is the horsewoman? I still want to make that connection for her. Lynn Dietrich is a great horsewoman that they would love each other. I know that. But my brain was going crazy. Jan Talon, that was the first time I met her. Oh my God, she's become such a good friend. I have made lots of good connections for her. I feel like I'm accomplishing what I need to do when I do this.
That's beautiful. Do you know Rose Latini or the Colony to Society Association?
No.
They're showing us, they're showing you some love they're loving what you're saying.
Oh, well, then tell that person they need to make sure they stay on here so they know how to reach me, and I'll help them too.
Okay. Speaking of that, now talk about legal shit. She spends so much time promoting, thinking of other people. She doesn't even talk about her business that she's in. So Lynn, talk about Legal Shield, and I'm going to put up your little contact info here. Okay.
So let me tell you about Legal Shield. And that's funny how Legal Shield came about, because I was working, and in the midst of working, I was working with a security company, and I was selling security officers and police officers for companies that needed security. And one of my bosses said the wrong thing one day. I got a page that my husband was on the way to the hospital. A neighbor said to me, he's in an ambulance. It doesn't look good. Get here as quick as you can. And so my boss knew what was going on, and I told him. And he said, I can't let you go. We're in the middle of the biggest deal we're working on, and you're the best salesperson we have, so you have to stay. I said, what? And I said, he said, I'll give you time off next week. I said, listen, my husband might not be here tomorrow morning. And he said, that's the best I can do. I said, you are the owner. You can do whatever you want to do. He said, I told you that's the best I can do. I said, thank you. I said, thank you very much. I picked up my purse and I went to the ladies' room, and I kind of had a talk with myself on the way there, saying, I'm leaving. I'm going to the train station and I'm going home. The train will take me an hour to get home. I pray I get there before he passes.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I need to find a way to work for myself. I know my husband's health will not get better. It will only get worse. And I'm not going to beg anybody. My hours were 9 to 5, and I was coming in at 6 in the morning and working for 3 hours before everybody else. And I would stay till midnight. And so I thought, I have to beg you? I don't think so. So I went, and I thought, I know I'm being insubordinate. I'm probably going to get terminated. But you guys heard my story. After everything I'd been through, I thought, come on, I'll find another job. I'm not worried. Even though I was the sole support of 6 people, I said, I think I could do that. So 3 days later, I came back. He had stabilized. He was still in the hospital. And everybody got quiet when I walked in. And I said, uh-oh, I think I'm getting fired today. But that's okay. So I just went in my office and I waited to get fired, and they didn't come. Well, eventually in walks a woman who says, a few weeks later, a woman comes in and she says, I want to talk to you about the AFLAC benefits. I said, I don't know anything about AFLAC benefits. She said, well, they pay you when you get hurt on the job. So I told her what happened to my husband. I said, would they have paid me? She said, yes, they would have. I said, well, guess what? I'm going to go answer this call that I have to run. And I said, if you're here when I come back, I'm buying everything you've got. So I did. And I got hired right away, started working for myself, and became number 1 in my 5-state region. And then Legal Shield came into my life. And somebody said, maybe you want to talk about Legal Shield. I said, no, not interested. You know, see, God does funny things. I said, not interested. I said, I'm doing just fine now. And they said, but Lynn, you've told me about a couple of things that have happened in your life where an attorney would have made a difference. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Let me buy it and try it, because I did need a will. Each time he went through cardiac arrest, they asked me if he had a living will. I didn't even know what that was. So I said, I'm going to buy it and try it and see if it works. And I bought it, and it worked wonderful. And I said, let me go out and talk to one of my clients. They had 225 employees. The owner said, I only have one question, Lynn. Do you own the benefit? I said, yes. He said, come right in and talk to my people. So I talked to them. Every single person except 6 took it.
Woo,
I said,
really?
we're on to something here. And then I realized
220 people and 214 chose it voluntary. They just decided
Yes, it's a voluntary thing and they have to pay for it themselves.
Wow, that is
But
amazing.
you know what I realized, Alan? I realized that people didn't know about this. We've all been taught that attorneys cost too much, which they do for most of us.
Right.
And we didn't realize that we have to guess at how to fix our problems, but now we don't have to guess. If you had the option for $30 for the month to give them everything that stresses you and they're going to fix it and give it back to you, why wouldn't you spend $30 and do it? Mm-hmm. And I said, this is like incredible. So, I mean, I'm going to tell you the truth, Alan. I tested them. I gave them lots of problems and they fixed every one of them. And I said, there has to be a catch, but there never was, Alan. I've been doing that for 25 years. There is no catch. I tell people it's month by month. If test me and see if I'm not telling you the truth. Take it, get a complimentary will, a living will, and a medical directive. That's $2,000 worth of stuff right there. Get that done, and then give them a whole pile of everything that upsets you, Alan. You give them every problem you've got, and they're going to help you.
Okay, so how long are you contracted for when you buy it?
A month.
A month. You $30, one $30 thing.
$30.
Say after 30 days, I got a will done, and you can just quit then, even though that will is worth maybe $1,000 to do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're going to leave you in better shape than when we met you. But you know what? I'll guarantee you, if you do what I tell you to do and give them all your problems, you're going to say, wait a minute, you could have my cable TV, but you're not getting this back, because I use it for when insurance companies don't want to pay. I've used it when airlines didn't want to return my money when I couldn't take a trip. I've used it with my cable when your cable company doesn't do what they're supposed to do. I've used it with cell phone companies. I used it for a $30 overcharge at Walgreens. And you know what I ended up getting? All I wanted was my $30. I got everything I spent in that store on that day. I got just short of $250 and a $25 gift card. And it cost me nothing but my $30 that month. Okay,
so I'm a Canadian. Can I buy this from you?
Oh, yes, you can. And wait till you hear that. When you buy it, for $30, it covers you, a spouse, or a significant other, as long as a significant other lives with you. I tell everybody, you can't have a significant other and a spouse because that's a legal problem. So pick one, pick well. And all children up to the age of 26, as long as they're never married and live at home. Okay. And guess what? You're covered with a law firm in each of the 50 states and every single province in Canada.
All right, I'm in, Lynn. I'm in. I got to set this up. So we'll.
Alan, I know your problem you had. That's why I'm saying, Alan, you should be talking to them.
All right, I'm going to. You convinced me. And why wouldn't I listen to Lynn? Lynn
yeah, because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to hide from you. You know that.
I know. Okay, so Lynn, we got like about a minute and 40 seconds left. We see your contact info here. So I got to tell you, I never paid attention enough when you were describing what's it called again? Legal Shield? Legal Shield last time. And so I'm going to do it. This makes really good sense. And just, I haven't touched my will forever. So for $30 to do a will, that's like amazing value. That's 30 US, I imagine, right? So
yes, 30 US.
To $40 Canadian or something. So, but still great value. So I'm going to do that for sure. So thank you for that, Lynn. That's awesome.
Listen, there is one more thing I would like to share though. If people have a pencil, they want to go to zoomwithlynn.com, come out and zoomwithlynn.com, come out and network with us and be part of my project and let me help you like you have never been helped before. I tell people my story about my husband and daughter so they understand that I never quit on them when it was obvious that all the odds were stacked against them. And I tell people, if you become part of my project, the only way it will not work is if you walk away. If you stick with me, Alan, and people keep seeing you, I will put you on the marquee and I'll make sure everybody knows who Alan is, and other people make opportunities available to you and introductions. It will be wonderful. And I would be glad to do that with anybody who sees this.
Lynn, you are a beautiful human being. I am so glad that I met you. And, thanks to Jeanette Anderson for connecting us. But you have been just a lightning rod of lovely people in my life. And you are as well, an incredible human. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad to know you. And I'm going to be a client as well with Legal Shield. I thank
Yay.
you. Hey, wait a minute. Mention about the
Hey.
ID.
And you know what?
This is the zoomwithlynn.com, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's
Say
where I
about
want
the
to come.
ID protection too.
Let's talk about the ID protection for just 1 second. If
Yeah.
you're not scared out of your wits about stuff that's going on, I don't know what's the matter with you. Used to be ID theft was like very uncommon. It is so common now. Most of these companies aren't even telling you when they have breaches. But let me tell you 4 quick things. There was a major breach most of you don't know about in March, and that was almost 4 million people with AT&T. I don't think a lot of people know about that. That was not even cleaned up yet. And in April, the following month, they had another big security breach with AT&T. And again, they won't even disclose how many people were involved in that one. Now, let's fast forward. Ticketmaster had a huge 563 million people in the United States, Canada, and Australia. I am hearing so many people who've been notified that their information's out there about that, and they're getting funny phone calls asking them information. That's pretty serious. And now the government that collects in the United States, that collects information from all these companies to help them with something, I don't know why they have all this information, has now 2.7 billion people who are involved in their data breach that just happened a week ago.
Okay, so what is the ID protection?
Destroy your life. They can make your life a living hell. With ID Shield, again, if you're a single individual, $14.95 a month. If you're a family, you and a spouse or significant other, and all children up to the age of 18, $29.95, $30 a month, and you're covered with that as well. Now, 70% of people who have an identity theft issue have a legal issue. Because we are one company, 2 divisions, you have an identity theft issue and it becomes legal. They hand it to the lawyers. And Alan is going about his merry life, and they fix it all for you.
Lynn, it has been a pleasure talking to you. We got to sign off. We're trying to keep these to 30 minutes so it's in a podcast format. Okay. And what else was I going to tell you? Oh, this might be a strange word to you. You remember when we started the show, I said Okie? Okie is how you say hi in Blackfoot. Okay. And so now I'm going to say Gidamatsin, and that is see you later in Blackfoot. And one more, Lynn, here's a Blackfoot word that means, oh, that's excellent. And it's ixokapi. Your talk was ixokapi. Thank you so much.
Ixokapi.
Yes.
Thank you, Alan. You are a dear friend.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.